Hi guys, I thought I would do another one. It's one of those days being I'm being shut in. No sleep. It looks like a beautiful Saturday. I'd like to be out, but these people are still causing trouble. Um, they're constantly like you're like being monitored, like they're babysitting, like you're under constant surveillance. I'd like to know how people like this have cops on the speed dial. Like I said, after 20 years up there, I found out that my neighbor works for him. But anyway, we're not going to use this video to talk about police. I'd like to talk about Crossroads Counseling at St. Mary's. Her name was Peg. I guess she was a psychologist. So we're gonna start out with the story of when I first got married, because I'm reading this book. This book is dated. It's a great book. I'm 3/4 of the way to something like this. I'd have read in a couple days, but of course I haven't been feeling too well here because this is what they're doing. But this story, which I just got at the bookstore, is from 1860. And they locked women up for reading, not for thinking, basically. So our hero in it finds out that the doctor's in on it. Well, I went to see this Peg when I first got married because I wanted my name on assets, and I was told that was crazy because it's Mr. and Mrs. So I was forced by my half family who made allegations. I was forced by these people on the lake. And those are separate stories, so I won't use this video for that. But suffice to say, and then my mother-in-law and my mother, that I should see a priest. My mother-in-law said I should see a priest, because you seem upset. You're talking about divorce. Catholics don't get divorced. So I didn't have a problem going over and talking with this Peg. I figured, hey, if everybody's so convinced there's something wrong, I'll go talk to somebody. Well, according to St. Mary's, 20 years later, I supposedly had a psychotic break. Yeah, a psychotic break, which my half family keeps alleging. The police department alleges. This Judge Lorman, as soon as I was dragged in there in handcuffs, told me I was mentally ill and I need to be put on a 72-hour hold. 20 years. This was 20 years later, when I reported domestic violence. So this book. This story is from 200 years ago. This woman told this story about her husband had her dragged out of the house and locked up, and basically for nothing. So it's not only police in this, and at this point, halfway, I'm about 3/4 of the way through, she's finding out the doctor's trying to keep her there, which is what the doctors over at Hutchins did to me. They told me it was all my family and friends that didn't believe, because when I went over there, I reported domestic violence and a sexual assault, which is the same thing I talked to Peg about in the beginning at St. Mary's. I said, my name should be on assets. Oh, well, it's a traditional marriage. It's assumed it's Mr. and Mrs., it's a traditional family. You don't want to talk about divorce with Catholics, so on and so forth. And I went around, I have lots of stories. I went around to everyone financially to figure out how this all works. So 20 years later, to make a long story short, I just happened to pick this book up at the library, and it's really good, Barnes & Noble. Shout out to Barnes & Noble. It's really good. The Woman They Couldn't Silence, the shocking story of a woman who dared to fight back. And it's about being locked up by your husband and these other people in the community alleging that you're mentally ill. So anyway, the Dr. Krim out there at Hutchins tells me that everybody, all my family and friends agree that I'm mentally ill and should be locked away permanently. Yeah, can you imagine? This was after I was sexually assaulted. They put me on the 72-hour hold. I go out there and this is what they tell me. I said, well, I'm here to report the domestic violence in my marriage and a sexual assault. Well, nobody believes that happened to you. And the new police chief wrote up a whole dissertation about how crazy I was, and so on and so forth. But I won't use that video for this. And I told the judge, I said, he just sexually assaulted me. So it seems to me that should be written up. So this went on 200 years ago with locking this woman up. And here I am, it's 2026, and this is what these people get together to do. And this is the kind of psychology they do over at Hutchins in Syracuse. Oh yeah, I didn't even know where I was going. They told me that nothing belonged to me. I'd be homeless and destitute. And they drove me over there. I didn't even know where I was going. I asked a couple times where I was going. They drove me all out to Syracuse. And this is what this Dr. Krim told me, that basically, you know, all my friends and family agreed. I said, well, first of all, I don't have any friends. I mean, these were all my ex-husband's friends. And as far as family, I haven't seen my mother in 20 years other than funerals and, you know, an occasional wedding. So this is what these people can get away with doing. So I think for the next couple of videos, instead of talking about the police, because I don't want to make this all the time a police matter, we can talk about the nurses. I have a cousin in the family that pretends to be a doctor, Miss Sparks, that works over at the hospital, or used to. I called her trying to get information. This Mary Alice Hastings, that's my cousin's ex-wife, is over there. And there's lots of other medical personnel that, you know, this Connie Staley is a nurse over there. There's lots of them. I don't want to rattle off too many names, but I'd like to ask them what they all think they're doing with this, making up these false allegations. And now every apartment I live, they get their friends to call the police and say I'm crazy. So it's not just the police. We have medical professionals at St. Mary's. I'd like to follow up with this Crossroads Counseling, why this peg supposedly wrote up I had a psychotic break, which wasn't true. I only went 2 or 3 times. She told me that if I wanted to pay her to be her friend, I could do that, but there was nothing wrong with me. Nothing wrong with me. So this is how I started my marriage, with all these people behind my back calling me crazy. Up on the lake, the housing inspector, his wife is a nurse. The neighbors, I believe, are involved with the school district, and he works for cops. And this is what these people do. So it's not just police. This hospital has been involved in this repeatedly, the St. Mary's, making up this stuff. And actually, my cousin was going over to their pros. He moved around the corner from me. And he was going to pros for heroin addiction and recovery. So this is what these people were allowed to get together to do. So we'll continue to talk about the medical personnel, the nurses, the doctors, and the social services worker that involved in this kind of fraud, harassment, and lying to the police department. Be safe, guys.